I think you should just start it with "Let's Get Crack-a-Lackin'."
What's up, guys? It's Turn to Stone here with a very, very exciting deck profile. We have a very close personal friend of mine and the recently crowned European champion, Mr. BigONotation. Ollie, how are you doing, Ollie?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm doing great today, Johnny. Thanks very much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I was really excited to have you on. I was watching the finals on my phone whilst I was at my locals. Did stop playing for about 10 minutes just to celebrate at the end. First of all, congratulations. Obviously, you've done what we all hoped you would by toppling the red meta. We really appreciate all your engagement with all of our content. If you want to support us, the best way to do so is to continue to let us know what you think. Please like and subscribe, and help us reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, or join our Patreon like these lovely people.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm an avid red hater, so I tried as hard as I could not to play red, and it ended up working out well for me, so couldn't ask for much more, really.
I mean, yeah, it seemed like red was going to absolutely dominate, and then when we saw you sort of started taking red scalps, as it were, I think a lot of people, especially people who weren't expecting a blue player to do particularly well, you really had a lot of eyes on you. You and I don't remember his name, but the Beerus player who was in top 16 as well. Yeah. Obviously, both of you did relatively well. So again, congratulations on a really, really good showing.
Thank you. Yeah, I was terrified to play against Beerus. I'm so glad that he went out just before I was gonna have to pair against him. Yeah,
I mean, I do know how dangerous Beerus can be, but let's enough about Beerus. We're here to talk about you today. Do you want to start by talking us through your very, very spicy 4 green Android cell gamma list that you've got just to my left here?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like most of the list is fairly standard. Pretty much as soon as I saw the ban list, one of the first things I thought of was Gamma, because with Resolve Renewed only being limited to the Vegito leader, the floodgate is a lot more safe to come down. And then also with Broly Crown having to be played for 1 energy, you can very easily just use the Android 18 counterplay as kind of like a protection against that card now, instead of having to do all of the like window 1 stuff, where if you don't want to get Broly Crowned, they can just not play it and then play it later.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. With your list, there are a couple of, I would say, quite interesting tech choices. Do you want to talk us through? We'll start with that one baby Golden Avenger.
Yeah, so to be honest with that card, it was very much a last-minute throw-in. I kind of had one slot that I wasn't really sure what to put in there. I think I was messing around with a couple of cards in that spot, and I was originally playing just 4 Dirty Bursts in the main, because obviously I was expecting a lot of red, and Dirty Burst does a lot against red.
Yeah.
But I started testing against Tom, obviously a member of your team, Irritorum, and he was originally playing SS3 to help me test against that matchup. And I just got so bored of the long games and of all of the barrier 6 drops that he was playing that I was like, right, I need to make sure I main something that can end the game against a blue matchup, especially blue ramp, or that can help me deal with one of those big early game barrier threats that they drop. And Baby just kind of felt like the perfect answer to both of those situations, as well as being just quite generically good against any sort of deck that happens to run negates.
Did you find that it was something that you relied on a lot in your games? I'm not sure what your path to the crown, as it were, was.
I think I only ended up playing it actually twice throughout the tournament. I pretty much sided it out every game that I went against Red for. But I think I did use it to win the first round of the top 16 against Peter Dance, and then I think I used it once in Swiss as well, just to push through another on a turn where otherwise I wouldn't have been able to push through as hard, just mainly using it for the counter, of course, because you can't use it as the counter play during the opponent's turn if you've used the untap 3 as well.
Yeah, of course. Also, just to really quickly touch on it, I think I understand why, but do you want to talk me through the Android 8 super combo?
Yeah, so that card, I mean, Mostly it's just for Gogeta, because obviously
Yeah.
the Gogeta 8 drop, if you're on 3 life, you need to make sure that you've got a load of super combos in hand. You can draw cards and then combo out of that attack fairly easily. So it's a big part of that is because of the Gogeta 8 drop. But I mean, at the same time, Dirty Burst does help deal with that card quite a lot, so it's not entirely because of that. I think just in general right now, or for that particular format where set 19 wasn't legal, you needed to be the defensive against red on Gamma. And Android 8 definitely helps you be the defensive player in that certain matchup. Whereas if you play the Android 18 super combo, that's kind of like a much more aggressive super combo. You can use it at a higher life. It's kind of more about whittling your opponent's resources down so that you can kill them. But yeah, with the Android 8 super combo, you can just be a lot more defensive. And then an additional sort of helpful part of it is that because it's mono blue, I can just start putting them into my energy, especially if I'm needing to play around Broly Crown. But also if I'm just staying on higher life against a certain matchup, I can just start charging them and then pick them up when I need them, and it doesn't like slow me down with having energy exhaust or anything like that.
Okay. That yeah. I mean, as well as it having the Android tag, makes it searchable with the measureless strength as well. So I suppose that's probably also playing into the advantage of it.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it does also have the Red Ribbon Army tag, which is also relevant because it means it's searchable off the other top 5 searcher as well.
Yeah, brill. So you've talked a lot about like the red matchup, and as we know at the minute, red is really strong. SS4 Gogeta and mono red and red yellow Sin are kind of really the big dogs that you need to take down. With this particular deck and this particular build, what would you say to people, or to people who are looking to pick up the deck? What's the game plan? Let's say we're going against SS4. What's the game plan against SS4?
So against SS4, a big part of the matchup is those early first couple of turns. They gain a lot of advantage, especially when they're looking to awaken on turn 2. So a big part of those early turns is monitoring their Z energy, checking when they're actually able to get a Goku and a Vegeta in their Z energy to get that early awaken. And on turn 2, they're most likely just going to be dropping the Unison, then looking to swing with the Unison, combo off a guy that they've played to get the draw and then the top 3. And then that will put that Goku or Vegeta into the Z energy so that they can then awaken and get maximum value off both sides of their leader. So negating the Unison swing on turn 2 is a massive thing, which is part of the reason why we've got the Android 19 negate in there. Also just being an amazing card, being a searchable negate that you can also use in energy. But it's also just a very nice card to help stop that turn 2 against Gogeta. And then going into the later turns, it's mostly just about killing their Unison. I feel like a lot of the counterplays now that Resolve Renewed is limited to Vegito are going to be cards like Omen of Awakening or Pilaf's Missile, which are reliant on you having a Unison out to at least be used to their most effective way. Because with Omen of Awakening, if you don't have a Unison out, it's a 2 energy investment and you're critting a life, so that's quite a lot to invest as the aggressor in the matchup.
Yeah.
So if you're able to kill the SS4 Unison early on, then it's a really big swing for you, because that means you can start to afford to rely on that Android 14 counter attack, and that'll just stop a lot of their turns. So a lot of the early game is really dependent on stopping them building up a hand by negating some of their early swings, just so that they can't combo off cards, and then dropping that Android 14 whenever you can kill their Unison, so that you can just stall out that game a little bit longer, so that you can then start to aggress with the crit swings from the Cell Z battle card, and then push them down to 4 or less life and start actually swinging with your single strikers as well.
Cool. I mean, yeah, that's sounds like you've definitely play tested against SS4 a couple of times.
Yeah, I think a big MVP against the SS4 matchup was that 1-drop battle card, the Z Goku. It's just a 1-drop, plays for 3 Z energy, 15k. But it's really big against SS4, I found out, because on your turn 3, oftentimes their Unison will be at 4 markers. If you went second, then you will have swung into their Unison with your turn 2 on your with your Unison and your leader. So whether you went first or second, it's always going to be on 4 markers on your turn 3, unless they're sliding copies under, in which case that's also fine, because then they're losing hand advantage. But on turn 3, if it's on 4 markers, you can swing leader, swing unison into their unison, take it down to 2 markers. Then you can go into the Android 17, and that has barrier, so it protects you against Yamcha. But what I started to notice is a lot of SS4s started to replace Yamcha with Wolfang Fists, with the 3 slots that obviously got taken up by previous Yamchas. And so Wolfang Fist can then kill that Android 17. And then if you were to then play an Android 18 from energy, that could then get hit by the 1 of Yamcha if they happen to see it. So with that Z Goku, that is your way to play around Wolfang Fist and Yamcha if they were to have 1 copy of each in hand, because once they Wolfang the Android 17 off, you can then play the Z Goku and you'll have exactly 3 Z energy, because you'll have got 1 from your turn 2, 1 from their next turn, and then 1 from your turn 3 off the unison. And then you'll have exactly enough of the Goku. You can then swing 15. Goku can't get hit by Yamcha because it's getting hardcast. You can swing 15 into the unison to take it out to 1 marker, and then play the Android 18 to kill the unison. So it actually ends up like coming in clutch a lot against SS4, and a lot of the time that was just my turn 3 play to go into that guy.
Yeah, I definitely understand your lines of reasoning there, and it's not very often, particularly in our card game, that we get players who kind of know the intricacies of like different lines of play and like interweaving things together. And obviously, having played against you quite a lot, if you aren't aware, Big O is incredibly good at knowing how to weave different lines of play together. So if you do sit up on the down at the table opposite him when he's in the top 4 at Worlds, like, just know that he is about 4 or 5 turns ahead of you. One thing I did want to mention, because this was the moment in the finals match that really it got me very, very like pumped up, as it were. The Android 18 let the battle begin. There was a turn, I believe it was in game 2, where the SS4 Gogeta player was trying desperately to play one of the 4-drops, and I believe he played 3 Android 18 like the battle begins in a row.
Yeah, was that when he was going for the Broly Crowns? He played like
yeah, I think he tried to play 2 Broly Crowns and 1 4-drop from varying skills, and I could see the first Android 18 comes down. He's like, all right, yeah, that can happen. Plays another card. He's like, Android 18. All right, yeah, 2. That makes sense. He won't have the 3rd one though. And he plays this battle card out, and you just go, oh, but there's a 3rd one. And the defeat that washed upon his face was quite beautiful. It's quite beautiful. Thank you for giving me that moment inside.
Yeah, no, that was a very, very fun turn to pull off, or 2 turns, whenever it was. Just getting rid of 2 Broly Crowns always feels amazing. I hate the idea of people looking at my hands, to be honest. So
I think, to be fair, I think your hands are pretty nice, to be fair. In terms of the core of Gamma is pretty much the unison, Cell, and then each of the 3-drops, and I suppose the negated energy exhaust as well. How strong do you think Gamma's going to be with the unison being able to free combo kind of once per turn and ramp up Z energy going into set 19?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a very strong contender going into set 19, in my opinion. It gets a lot of new tools with the Gohan Floodgate, the 3-drop, and then also the Sun Gohan Rare being a very strong card as well. And then past that, because I think American Nats aren't playing with the new set 19 tournament pack, but there's also the Android 17 in that tournament pack, which looks very strong for the deck as well. And it's also on theme with being an Android, so it just kind of ties the whole deck together. But yeah, going in, there's going to be a huge shift in the Z deck, I feel like. People playing the new Jiren to just clear off unisons with all the spare Z energy they have.
Yeah.
And then also, finally, Blue having access to generic barrier removal with the Beerus is just completely insane. Yeah. Like, it really does fix a lot of the deck's issues, and it means that you don't have to main random one-offs like Baby Golden Avenger as well.
So if you were kind of looking to take this deck into Set 19, what changes are you making apart from obviously cutting Baby Golden Avenger? What are you siding in? What are you siding out in the main board?
In the main board, yeah, definitely Baby comes out. I feel like you could probably cut down on some of the Android 19s because I imagine that Red might take a shift. And Red might move somewhat out of the meta, but also Dirty Burst might just be enough to carry you from then on. And with the new Gohan and Android 17 floodgates, you might just not need the Android 19s anymore.
Okay.
So I'd imagine that they could at least go down to 2 copies. But with the Android 17 coming out, I feel like with that card coming out, you could probably just cut the Android 19s altogether, and then. Honestly, I'm tempted to say that you could cut Cell down to 2 copies as well for the potential for the Sun Gohan rare, but I'm not entirely sure what the actual effects of the Sun Gohan rare are, to be honest, so I don't know how well that ties in with the deck, but if it's strong enough, I definitely could see that Cell goes down to 2.
Yeah,
because I feel like a big threat now with the Z deck is just the 3-drop Cell instead of the 4-drop, or the 9-drop, sorry.
I mean, I'm telling you now that the Sun Gohan rare is not an Android, so I don't know how well that's going to synergize with the deck, but maybe we can find a way to squeeze it in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's just a very strong standalone blue card in some way.
I think I have a copy somewhere, but I can't remember off the top of my head what the card does. So what I'll do is I'll flash it on screen now, and then the people can read it, and then we can move from there. So look, you mentioned Set 19, and we talked about how at the time of recording, North American Nationals are happening right now. We recently found out about something that we'll discuss a little bit later, but we've just finished, I think, round 3, and it is still a very red heavy top table, but obviously Duval is rocking around with Crimson Warrior. What decks are you looking to build in Set 19, and why?
Also, now that finals is like not a thing I have to worry about, and I get to play fun decks again, I have quite a long list of stuff to get into.
Let's discount the ones that your Twitch chat have asked for.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to just work on a lot of the decks that got support from the anniversary box, mainly Token Toa and Green Majin Buu. I think those 2 decks are very, very fun. But in terms of actual like Set 19 specific archetypes, I definitely say I'm looking at both of the blue decks, both Johan and Gotenks. I think those are both 2 very interesting decks. Gotenks just seems to have a lot of weird stuff going for it with all of the fusion, and the fusion pieces seem like quite good standalone cards. So maybe if I just chuck in some generic blue stuff, it will work, but I don't really know, to be honest. I also really want Yellow Slug to be good. I know that it's never going to be good, but I just really want it to be, because it's such a it's a really cool concept with all of the 1-cost 10Ks, and like you can free combo them sometimes if you're Z Awakened. You want to have them all in Z energy so you can play the 5-drops. Like it seems like a very cool deck, but it's never going to take off, I feel like.
I mean, we thought that about Blue Bojack, and look how well he did with that.
Yeah, maybe somebody out there can make it work. If not me, then hopefully somebody else.
I'll tell you, it won't be me. It definitely won't be me. I think the thing that you mentioned Slug with the... I can't remember which card it is, but there's a specific Slug card that plays a Slug that's not a 3-cost, but it itself is a 3-cost. It's kind of annoying because one of the stronger cards in Yellow Slug you would think would be that 3-drop barrier Slug that means they can't draw.
Yeah.
They've done a bit too much future proofing with that, I feel. Obviously, Bandai are listening, and they want to, give Cooler Mill a Surge leader. Just slide in my DMs. I'll send you. I'll send you a download for my But yeah, I think you were absolutely right. What is really nice about the current meta, or the current state that we're in, is that we've simultaneously had Set 19 and also the anniversary box, and the anniversary box always seems to give kind of a sprinkling of decks, like a nice shiny card, and the card normally doesn't make it S tier, but really does buff it up. Blue got some really nice generic tools with that new Goku Black card. I know, as you said, Token Toa got, is it a new 1-drop or a new 2-drop?
Yeah, it's a 1-drop poutine. It's a top 5 searcher if you discard it for the unison or anything 5 or less, basically. But also, if you combo with it, you can remove a token to draw a card.
Yeah, like it's not a backbreakingly good card, but you put it in the deck and suddenly the deck's a little bit better, and you think, oh, maybe I will pick this up again. And then we've got all of the new set 19 stuff. Like I was lucky enough to pack a evil Saiyan? Kumba, the dude with the straitjacket.
I want that card.
So I immediately windmill slammed a set 4 Dramigra deck back together, just because it's really, really fun. So when could you talk me through your matchups from the event? Because I know you played SS4 in the final, and I'm imagining that you played quite a lot of SS4 during the day, but I didn't manage to touch base with you during the middle of the event. So do you want to talk me through what your matchups were?
Yeah, of course. So round 1 I was against Green Gotenks, and I did start to get flashbacks because round 1 in London, in the London regionals, I played against Green Gotenks and got absolutely smoked.
I remember making eye contact with you in the second game, and you had just such a look of defeat on your face. Sorry.
So I did get flashbacks to that,
Yeah.
but luckily managed to take that clean 2-0. Round 2 was against SS4 Gogeta, the first one of the day. And yeah, managed to take that 2-0 again. Just felt very comfortable drawing Dirty Burst, pretty much. That card is so helpful in that matchup. Round 3 was, I believe, against Red Sin, although rounds 3 to 5 is where my memory gets a little hazy, so I'm not entirely sure what the order is on those. But I think round 3 was against Red Sin. That was actually really, really close. That guy was an amazing player for sure. I managed to 2-0 him, but like game 2 came down to him drawing a unison off of his Beerus super combo instead of a 5k. And so he had to combo off his Rage Negate from hand so that he could out combo one of my swings. And then he obviously couldn't Rage Negate my next swing, which was going to be the kill swing.
Yeah.
And then I just managed to take it from there, luckily. So that was like an extremely close game, that game 2 there. Then round 4, I believe, was against Android 16, one of the members of Team 9 Life. And that was a really fun game. That guy was lovely to play against. But thankfully, from all of the testing that I get from Irritorum, I know the Android 16 matchup fairly well, and just know how the deck plays in general. So,
I mean,
yeah,
we all know Tom's spent many a week sort of poring over Jared Lopez's list to make sure he could get it card for card absolutely perfect. So I'm sure that as you said, that the practice will have paid off there.
Yeah, of course. Then round 5, I believe I was against another SS4, and I think I managed to. Oh no, that was the one I messed up a little bit. So I managed to win that one, but it was 2-1. On game 2, I lost because I got I just misplayed slightly. I blocked his leader swing.
Right.
With one of my Android 18 blockers that I'd had on the board. And then he just kind of overwhelmed for his secret rare. I looked at my hand of no negates and realized I definitely shouldn't have used my last blocker on a leader swing.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kind of took my full life and went to game 3. But luckily managed to close out game 3 fairly comfortably as well. Round 6 was against Trunks Jeter, which I was very surprised to see that late into the tournament. I do think Trunks Jeter has a fairly good matchup into some of the red decks, but I was just surprised that they hadn't got that bad matchup in some way, or just had a red player draw the nuts against them and remained undefeated all that way.
I mean,
but managed.
What specifically do you think helps Trunks Jeter in that specific matchup? So is it the slug? Is it the red package? Like what the red package, the yellow package? What about the yellow deck makes you think, oh, this would be okay?
So I think against Sin, I mean, the fact that it has Final Flash against Sin is massive.
Yeah.
Just stopping the early double strike crit and then any later triple strikes that come through is very, very good against Sin. And then also just the access to barrier blockers, because Sin can't really do anything about those. So once you get set up with Trunks Cheetah, if they're swinging with their triple strikes, you can just block them if you don't have the final flash.
Okay.
And then against Gogeta, I feel like it probably is just a case of dropping that slug as soon as you can, and then that protects you against the 8-drop because it can't do the Union Fusion, and it also stifles a lot of their draw power if you can protect it properly. Also against Gogeta, if you go first and you can get a Trunks blocker down for their turn 2, then they can't just slam down the Unison and get their like full awaken off, because their Unison will get rested by the Trunks, so it can't swing to get the top 3 search off their leader. So they lose a bit of value there, and then they just start to peter out once the slug hits the board as well.
Okay, I understand it a bit better now. That's why I like talking to you, Ollie, because you're a very intelligent person who I don't feel stupid when I ask stupid questions, so thanks. Sorry, go on. So you played Trunks Vegeta in, I think you said round 5?
Round 6.
Round 6, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, managed to win that one 2-0 as well. I felt like it was just a case of controlling his board as much as I could, just attacking his battle cards over and over, so that he could never have a turn where he'd built a board and then could cool it and push through with that board. And then round 7 I was against another SS4 Gogeta, and that was another Team 9 Life member as well. That was Michael. Very, very good player. I don't think I'd ever seen him lose a game before I played against him, but managed to win that one 2-0 luckily as well. So once I beat him when he was obviously on SS4, I was feeling very confident going into the rest of the tournament, because I was like, in my eyes, that guy is one of the best players that I've probably ever seen. And so I was like, right, I've taken him down. There's very few people who I think could stop me now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you are right. I've seen Michael play quite a lot. I got to watch him pretty much mop the floor with everybody in London. He's a very, very strong player. Really, really lovely guy. All the people in Team 9 Life are, relatively nice people. Just a really solid player. Understands the meta, understands the matchups. If you are, as you said, if you took games off him, obviously that I can imagine that would fill you with quite a lot of confidence. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Was that was it 7 rounds of Swiss, or was there 8?
There was 8 rounds of Swiss. So
okay.
Yeah, there was one more round, and that was against Red Sin again. So second Red Sin of the day. That one I did end up losing. I won game 1 fairly comfortably, and then game 2 I just misplayed massively. I was beating myself up over this misplay for a little while, because I'd like fairly comfortably set up going second. I found that against Red Sin, you just play the Unison turn 3 instead of turn 2.
Okay.
You hold your 2 energy for some negates. If you've got a realm, then you can bottom deck their 4-drop on your turn. And then on turn 3 you can play the Unison, awaken, and then play the 17-18 to remove their 8-drop.
Nice.
So that's just been the play against Red Sin every single time going second, and it feels actually like very playable from there on. So I'd set up fairly comfortably on game 2 going second, but there was a turn where I'd top 5 search just to like finish up my turn. I swung with my entire board, all of that stuff, and I cleared most of his board out the way. And then I top 5 searched. I had the option to grab the Android 19 negate, and I just took a super combo, because I thought that I had a D magic in hand. So I was like, and I had the floodgate, so I was like, I can floodgate him, and then if he goes for a triple strike swing, I can just D magic it. He lost 2 cards in hand, and then it will be back to my turn again. And then it goes to his turn. He swings. I floodgate. He drops his secret rare, the Vegeta, the triple striker. Goes to swing at my leader, and I look at my hand and I see the card that looks like the Mythic Booster Art D Magic is actually an SPR Realm of the Gods. And so I'm like, wait, I do not have a negate in this hand, so I should have definitely taken that Android 19. And so I'm like, yeah, no negates. Let's just take these 3 life and go to game 3.
Oh dear.
And then about 2 turns into game 3, I think time got called. So he just swung with his double striker, took me down to 6 life, and after a couple of turns, that was just game. So ended up losing that one. But at the end of the day, still made top 16 after day 1. So shouldn't have been too disappointed on that one, really.
I mean, yeah, if you're going into sort of 6+ rounds of Swiss anyway, like mistakes will start to creep in. Don't be too hard on yourself, Ollie. You played your heart. You did us all proud. You did us all proud. We're all very proud of you.
And then going into the next day, top 16, the first match I was against Peter Dance, so another Team 9 Life member and also a very good close friend of ours.
Okay, so Swiss finishes. You go home, you recuperate, and then you come back the next day for Top Cut. Do you want to talk me through the Top Cut matchups as well?
Yeah, of course. So going into top 16, and we found this out on the first day as well, because they kind of showed off the pairings initially, because they just paired it first to 16th and then second to 15th, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I ended up going against Peter Dance, so another Team 9 Life member and also a very close friend of ours. Very, very strong player as well. And he was on Red Sin. He caved. I never thought that he would cave, but he caved and played red in the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a very fun match. I felt a lot more relaxed playing against him because I knew him personally.
Yeah.
And it was just quite nice to chat to him while we played. But managed to win that one 2-0 as well. That was a very, very weird match because game 1 I didn't see my unison until turn 5.
Oh wow.
And then had about 4 cards left in deck by the end of the match, and managed to just top deck Baby Hatch off of my leader effect going into one of his turns.
We love it.
And so I was like, my hand was fairly strong at the time, so I'm not sure if I would have necessarily died, but definitely just drawing Hatch sealed the deal there.
It always does.
Yeah, of course. And then, yeah, game 2 I felt like was a lot more standard from me, at least. I managed to see my unison a little bit earlier on, I think. And yeah, managed to take that one fairly cleanly as well. And then going into top 8, top 8 in fact, I was against Giovanni Castaman, so another good friend of ours.
Yeah.
Who was also on Red Sin. And this was probably the toughest Red Sin match that I had throughout the whole event, was against him. He's a very, very good player and very well versed with that deck. And he managed to take game 2 against me. Not because I misplayed at all, just completely like demolished me in that game, I feel like. Like massive props to him.
He'll do that to you.
Well.
He'll do that to you.
And it did feel like every single game that we played came right down to the wire. Like all of them were extremely close games. So like massive shout out to Giovanni, because yeah, he put me on the ropes for that match. It was very tough. And then going into top 4, I think this is where I started to go on stream for the day 2.
Yeah.
Was against another Red Sin. So quite a few Red Sins in the top cut for our nationals. But yeah, that was definitely, I feel like, an easier sort of match than it was against Giovanni. It felt like a lot more comfortable with my plays.
Yeah.
And I do feel like my opponent definitely drew poorly in some situations. I think in game 2 he didn't see a 4-drop on his turn 2, so that was definitely very rough on his part. But yeah, all of those things sort of combined together, and I think I managed to take that game 2-0. I do remember misplaying on my kill turn on game 2, and I was sweating over it because, again, these are the misplays that stick in my head after the events, that I like kick myself about. Even though I did well in the event, like I'll still be kicking myself about that because it's still a misplay in my head.
Yeah.
Where on the kill turn, I swung with an Android 17 and comboed my entire hand, when I could have just swung with a Unison instead, and then comboed the Android 17 off the board as well as my entire hand.
Yeah.
And he ended up having the 1 cost 10k in his hand that he'd got off life. I think it was a secret rare. So he did just about manage to out combo it, but if I'd swung with the Unison, he wouldn't have had the combo power. And so like, that's the kind of thing that I'll be mentally just repeating over and over in my head for a little while, because in like some situations that will be the thing that loses me games. So I was really annoyed at myself about that, but luckily managed to still take that game and take the whole match 2-0. And then the finals was against SS4 Gogeta, who would have guessed another red deck.
Crazy.
But luckily this is what I prepared for. I'd literally just been testing against red pretty much the whole time. And I think this was the guy who won the finals last year as well, so I was a little bit intimidated by that initially, but as we started playing, and because there wasn't a time limit, I could take a lot more time to think about my plays, which was a massive help. Not having the fear of losing to time rules was amazing. And so yeah, managed to just sort of slowly think about my plays, and it definitely helped a lot. So managed to end up taking that one 2-0 as well. And yeah, I just managed to win the whole event. I don't really know how I did it, but it worked out.
I mean, so from what the stories that I've heard and our mutual friends that were there, apparently there was a very large eruption of noise when you won.
Yeah.
Like the crowd went very, very wild. I also just wanted to say that, like, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the event back, but in the actual final match, there never really seems a point where you're like sweating, or you're like, I mean, like, as in, I don't mean you're actually sweating, like where you're under a lot of pressure, or you seem like you're struggling to kind of change the plays. At every point you seem really in control, and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to do this, and that means you can't do the thing you want, and then I'm going to do this other thing that means that you also can't do the thing that you want, and oh look, I have a much better advantage on board than you do. If you haven't already, this is not just to you, Ollie, I recommend that you do go and watch the stream of the event, because it's a really good demonstration of what red can do, and then it's also a really good demonstration of how to counteract red. So if you're looking to get into more competitive Dragon Ball, and you want to not only see like the top decks, as it were, because obviously the meta's ever changing, you can see the top players playing the top decks, and then you can also see the top players, or the top player, as it were, playing a really good counter deck to those top decks.
Yeah, I did go and rewatch some of my games just to give myself that pat on the back for when I made good plays, and then also cynically watch over some of my misplays and make sure that I note them down for future.
You don't need to beat yourself up, mate. You did a genuinely really good job. Right, so we've talked about kind of what's happened, and what the event was like, and things that have already been. Let's talk about something that's relatively new and relatively fresh. There is an online client coming for DBS card game. How excited are you for this?
Yeah, I'm very excited and very hopeful for what is going to be coming about that. I feel like, well, with Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, that instantly roped me back into Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I probably haven't played in like maybe 5 or 6 years.
Ollie, we don't need to talk about when you played Master Duel with me, and I played one card and then you killed me in like 6 games in a row. we just don't talk about it, mate. Just don't talk about it.
Yeah, Master Duel, great game. I agree. Yeah. Definitely got a lot of people back into Yu-Gi-Oh! How would you like it to look? So compare it to like Master Duel or the Pokemon Online CCG. What would be your preferred sort of model, as it were?
To be honest, I like, in terms of actually how it looks, like the design of it, I'm not too fussed about, just as long as I can play the game and have it be automatic. I'm very excited for that. But in terms of like a pack purchasing, or like, can you purchase individual cards, that sort of thing, I think sort of just like the model with Master Duel is a pretty good one, or Hearthstone as well, sort of preceding that as well, in the terms that you can buy packs which contain specific cards set or in specific sets, and then you can also have the option to craft specific cards if you're looking for like 1 or 2 cards to finish a deck. I think that sort of model is fine. And then for free-to-play players, you can play for free, but also if you want to invest that money, then you can just spend that money to get like 1 or 2 cards that you might need.
So would you be opposed to something like the? Do you know about the Pokemon Online CCG? How that business model was working until very recently?
Not entirely. That's the one where you can get like the little codes in the packs?
Yeah.
Right?
So I've been informed since that it's actually stopped in the most recent set. But what you used to do was you'd buy a booster pack, and then in the back of the booster pack would be a small card. An extra card, and then that extra card would have a code. You could redeem that code online, and it would give you like an online booster pack. So you were essentially getting 2 packs, 1 physical and 1 online, whenever you purchased a pack, which I think would be really, really cool. I think if they can get it on, because it's only going to be on PC, I think, in the initial run. I think if they can get that out to people, and it's got a very low like entry point, that's going to be massive for the game. And I don't think I'm the only one who's very, very excited when I can say there's this card game, play it online, like it's free. If it's under £5 to get into the game and get like a few packs and get going, being able to go to people who are really interested in Dragon Ball, because let's face it, loads of people like Dragon Ball. There's a card game. It's online. It's really cheap. You can play it for basically nothing. There's all these cool things. Like, oh, is Majin Buu in there? You bet Majin Buu's in there. What about Cell? Cell's there too. Is Broly in it? Yeah, Broly's in there, but you just don't want to play Broly because Broly's green, and green's not very good, and we just don't talk. Like, that would be mega. That's so good for so many people to be able to pick it up and play. Whereas at the minute, there's 500 plus cards, and you have to know what they all do, and you have to know all of the erratas and all of the bans and all of, like, oh, you can't put this card in this deck. You can't swing with your Gogeta 8-drop because I've activated King Vegeta's Imposing Presence, and you have to read it really carefully. Yes, I know it doesn't say anywhere on the counterplay card that you have to pay 2 energy to play Tower, but you do. There's nuances to the game that new players are going to struggle to pick up, but if they have an online client and a really active community, both online and physically, there's going to be a big boom in players, which is what we all want. We want the game to do really, really well. Obviously, because then when you win Worlds, it'll be an even bigger deal. So the more we can get eyes on the product, the more we can get eyes on the game, like the better, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be very excited to sort of push it over to my friends and be like, this is what I've been doing for like the last 4 or 5 years.
This is what I do for my job.
Please come and do this with me.
Yeah. I've also had a thought the other day, not the other day, literally today. Given that there will be an online client, that means that there's the possibility for online tournaments. And if there's a possibility for online tournaments, that means that they might need 2 very good shoutcasters to cast these online tournaments. And I don't know if anybody at Bandai knows anybody who's really good at shout. Maybe they've casted a few Fight Night events previously, and they're really, really good at what they do. And if you know anybody, and you want to send messages to Bandai in all of the feedback surveys that they do, there's just a couple of people who maybe would be really good for that job. And obviously, I know that we have, shall we say, an open line of contact with people who work very, very closely with Bandai. And you best believe that your boy Turner Stone is going to be trying to slide into as many DMs as possible. Yeah. Think about the second and third Hearthstone World Championships. They were really big events on a really grand scale with a load of publicity, done on Twitch, that didn't really need a lot from. Players didn't need to bring a load; they just had to bring themselves and a login. And if you can do that with Dragon Ball card game, that's amazing. That would be really, really cool. Sorry, I will not stop shouting from the rooftops about how amazing I think this is.
No, it really is great. And then in terms of like content creation as well, like watching people play Untap is great, obviously, or webcam, and like if you have a particular deck that you might want to build, watching them play that is great. But it can get a bit boring with compare that to watching your favorite Dragon Ball content creator opening 100 packs and not pulling a single Mecha Frieza Robotic Riposte and just slamming their desk because they really want to play Trunks Cheetah. Like, that would just be so much more funny.
Yeah. When they're sat there with their entire Gamma build, but they just can't find the Baby Hatch in a pack.
Yeah,
and they go through loads and loads and loads of packs, and they just don't get it. They save up enough in-game currency to buy an anniversary box, and they don't get Baby Hatch. They see their 4th copy of Hyper Evolution SS4 Goku, and you can see the rage boiling in. I don't want to play red. I'll play green before I play red. Oh well, there's a Broly. Haha. I just it's really, really cool. That's the big news that's come out this week from the world of Dragon Ball. As we said, the North American national finals are going on as we speak. About 520 players. Game's dying now. But I again, I'm really, really proud of you and what you did at the European finals. You absolutely took center stage and ran through all the opposition. You had really, really tough opponents. You sat down unfazed, as you often would, and just played your game and won. So, again, congratulations, Olium. But yeah, do you want to say? Do you want to give yourself a shout out or anything before we move to the game?
Yeah, of course. So, as always, I'm sure from the previous times I've been on here, you might be tired and sick of hearing it, but you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, BigONotation, where I do regular gameplays or deck profiles as well. Slightly less regularly, but still put them out. And also my Twitch as well, where BigONotation 245, where I live stream regular tournaments at least every week, if not then twice or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a good time. You guys can come hang out and watch me play some games.
I can confirm that it is both a good time, and you definitely do play games. Cool. So this is the end of the first part of the video. There will be a second part of the video dropping just after this, where we are going into a game. I'm going to reveal what leader I'm playing a little bit later on.